to the Mango Effect podcast, where every week we talk about the path to living a limitless life and having the freedom to do it your way. No topics are off limits. We get into the practical, the hypothetical, and the downright juicy stuff. I'm Mindi Rosser, your host and lifestyle cheerleader, and I'm here today to talk about my experience with going through Seth Godin's altMBA program back in 2016. Feels like eons ago. But you know what? I actually dug up the audio of a live stream that I did going through the experience, and I was actually reviewing it this week because I keep getting asked. It's been years since I went through the program, and I still get people asking me probably at least once, twice a month about my experience and what I learned. And it's one of the most popular videos I have on YouTube at the moment, with people wondering, what is altMBA like? What was your experience? What did you learn? And I don't think it's so much about Seth Godin's program per se, but really about how we transform as humans. It's really funny kind of listening to the past version of myself today, and I'm like, oh wow, I have really grown in some ways, and then in others it's really comical because I have still kind of stayed the same. In others, it's like some of my struggles are still the same today as they were back then. But it's really, really interesting, and I challenge you, if you are thinking about going through a program, going through an experience, to actually document it. So once you go through the program, whether you ever share it with the world like I did, or whether it's just in your own journal, because every single program that you do, every single book that you read, any single thing that you are putting inside your brain and you want it to have a massive transformative impact on your life, when you actually take the time to digest that experience and really share your takeaways, especially if you are going to feel comfortable sharing it with the world, it helps you crystallize what you learned. And then when you go back to it, you go, wow, I've really grown as a human. I've really grown as a professional. So I'm going to leave it there, and you get to hear Mindi from 2016, and hopefully the audio is okay. It may feel a little different than typical, but I've done my best with making it sound as good as I can from the recording. So let me know your thoughts, and I will pipe in at the end.
Hey everyone, this is Mindi Rosser here, and I'm here today to talk about altMBA. What altMBA is it's a program, an intensive 4-week online workshop designed by Seth Godin for high-performing individuals who actually want to level up and lead. So the reason I joined was because I wanted to level up. I wanted to take my craft to the next level. I wanted to meet with other people who were on that same path. And that was really important to me this year because one of the themes for me was mastery and turning pro. And those are two words related to two books that I really love, called Mastery by Robert Greene and Turning Pro, and that's by Stephen Pressfield. So I felt like altMBA just encapsulated that vision for me, which is why I decided to join. If you are curious about altMBA and trying to get the specifics of what you actually do during the course, good luck. It's supposed to be kind of kept a trade secret, so I'm not going to disclose everything about the inner workings of altMBA, but I am going to walk you through a lot of the different things that stuck out to me, what I learned from the process, a little bit about what you can expect, because I feel like that was something I wasn't quite prepared for when I went into altMBA, and it would have helped to have known a few things beforehand, I think. All right, so with altMBA, I'm going to pull out my postcard here. We got sent a card that looks like this, and I know it's backwards for you, but what it says is what and how I want to live my life. And it says, I will do the hard part first. I will embrace emotional labor. I will think of myself as the type of person who can and does, and I will act that way. I will adopt a posture of generosity, giving without hope of getting. I will care about people in the world around me, and I will act that way. I will dance with fear. I promise I will continue to keep making a ruckus, and then I'll teach someone else to do so too. So that's a really powerful message for me, and I feel like it puts my entire life's mission on one card, and it says a lot of things about who I am and who I want to become. And when I received that in the mail, along with a stack of books for altMBA, because you do get some curriculum in the mail a couple of weeks prior to starting the program, I read that and I just let it sink in, and I posted it. It's posted now on my desktop, which is behind this screen here. And I read it every day. And it keeps me inspired. It keeps me thinking about what I learned during altMBA and what I want to take away from it moving forward. So let's talk a little bit about what the process is like before you start altMBA. As I mentioned, you get a big stack of books a couple weeks before the start date, and I'll actually show you those right now. Pardon me. So your stack will look similar to this. Here's my stack. And people like to take pictures of their stacks. So you get a stack of books, about this many. Yep. And each of the books, you are supposed to read them before the process starts. Good luck with that, because unless you're a crazy fast speed reader or you just go and read the summaries of the books before the course starts, you're not going to get through every single book, and that's okay. I felt like the big part for me was understanding the concepts in the book. So if you read a site like actionablesummaries.com, that's a great place to go to get summaries for a lot of the books. That's what I'd recommend if you're trying to get through the books at the very beginning. Each of the books I want to go back and read in full. I've read some of them, and I'm actually just going to walk through them quickly. The Ship It Journal, this is really powerful. You can find it online for free. I highly recommend you go get it. Just Google it in PDF form, and you will find it. And this is really powerful if you're trying to launch a product or try to accomplish something big. And you are actually supposed to physically write in your Ship It journal. I have not written in mine yet, and I should. So I'm saving it, and we're not supposed to save it. We're just supposed to ship it and start writing in it. So that's something I need to get on. One of the other books you'll get, this is one of my favorites, is Steal Like an Artist by Austin Kleon. This book is really easy to read, and you can get through it pretty fast. As you can see, it's pretty visual. And I really like that about the book, and there are a lot of good takeaways. It was the first book that I actually started dog-earing the corners and marking things in the book. I have not done that in a physical book in years, so it's that good. And I highly recommend you subscribe to his newsletter, too. It's really excellent. The War of Art, this is another good one. I've already read this book, so for me, looking at it again, I'm like, oh, I've just read that one, so I'll skip over and come back to it again. But if you are a creative and you're trying to stoke that fire, you're having a hard time getting back into your groove, read The War of Art. Steven Pressfield will kick your butt into action in a very, very good way. He's one of my favorite authors. All right, the next one is The Gift. I will confess, I have not read this entire book. It is a biggie, as you can see. But it's a really good manifesto for those of you who are trying to make art. So if you are an artist or you consider yourself a creative, just about all of us are artists or creatives at heart. It's a good read. Okay. This one, Finite and Infinite Games. I think most millennials will like this, but from what I understand, most of those that were older in the altMBA group didn't get it when they were reading it. I thought it was brilliant. I did not read the entire book. I read the summary and a PDF version, kind of shortened. And the concept is really, really cool. So I'm not going to disclose that here, but I'll get on a rabbit trail and you stay on point. All right, The Art of Possibility. This is about everybody's favorite book in altMBA. People love this one because it's about getting through difficulty, despair, when you get angry. How do you deal with that? How do you keep moving forward? So The Art of Possibility is really, really good. I still need to read it in its entirety, but highly recommend you read that one too. And then The Coaching Habit. Another excellent book. And it's about coaching from a different perspective than most of us have approached coaching. We think of coaching as training, when coaching really isn't about that. It is about getting other people to think and come to their own conclusions. And that's something I'll dive into a little bit more during our chat today. How does altMBA teach you how to coach? Because that was something I wasn't expecting to take away from the process, but it's been transformative for me. Okay. Thanks for the feedback. As you can see, I have my little sticky notes in this one. feedback is something that we don't get enough of, and it's something we don't give enough of. And as a freelancer, I don't get enough feedback from my clients, from people I work with. We don't have structured check-ins. We don't have performance reports due on how we have been performing at work. So it's tough for me to ask for that feedback and accept that feedback. So I felt like that book was instrumental in helping me to see feedback from a different perspective. And going through the altMBA process, feedback is one of the most important things that we touched on. All right, and the last one, okay, business model generation. I actually like that book. It is definitely more on the businessy side of things. So a lot of the people did not feel comfortable with that book because there's a lot of heady stuff in there. It's not something you just sit down and read. You usually go through it in pieces and chunks to pull out different business model ideas and how you can act on those ideas and build your own business. So if you are trying to build a business, I'd recommend that book. There are a lot of great ideas in there. If you're trying to figure out where you fit into, I guess your future or what type of person you are, I'm actually going to show that to you really quickly because this actually helped me determine and change one of my goals was when we were reading through this book. I came across, I think, this page. And you probably aren't able to see it, but it talks about entrepreneurs versus senior execs, consultants, designers, and how do you fit into that spectrum of work and career? Because I always wanted to be an entrepreneur, and I came out of the process of altMBA wanting something completely different. And part of it is due to reading that book. All right, so that's the big list of books that you get, and you can go buy those or check them out from your library, so you don't have to invest a lot. It's about $100 worth of books if you want to have them in your library, and you don't want the cost of altMBA, which is a little bit pricier. All right, so we're going to talk about the checklist. You then, after you get those books in the mail, a few days before the program starts, you get a big checklist and a bunch of to-do items that you need to take care of before you start altMBA. A lot of people don't read through the entire instructions, and they ask a lot of silly questions at the beginning. So it's important to read through those instructions. I feel like the altMBA team behind the scenes does a great job of being very thorough and helping us understand exactly what we need to know to be successful in the program. And the parts they don't tell you, you're supposed to figure out yourself. So then after you receive that checklist, you get invited to the Slack community. And this is how I fell in love with Slack, was in altMBA. It was amazing. So if you've never used Slack, it's a tool that's usually used for internal communications. I've actually written a couple blog posts about it recently because I have fallen in love with the tool, and I think it's really powerful outside of internal communications, for instance, for a program like altMBA. So Slack is just it's a private group where you can interact with each other in different channels, talk about different issues that are going on. And the way that altMBA sets it up is very cool because you are broken down by teams, and so you can communicate with your colleagues in a private setting in some of the channels and then in a more public setting. So there are a lot of ways to engage with everyone that is doing altMBA. There are about 100 people that do altMBA each session, and once it's full, it's full. They are very, very picky and selective about the people that they let in. So you may get in the first time you apply, you may not, but just reapply if you really want to do it. Sometimes it's just due to some technicalities or time zone issues. So do not be discouraged. It is definitely worth it if you want to get in. All right, so we're going to talk about the different aspects of altMBA. Okay, so altMBA started, and we're going to talk about the coaching aspect. So each cohort, which is like a team, gets 2 coaches, and these people have gone through altMBA before, and they have been coached by the head coaches to do coaching with each of the individuals within their groups. So about 10 people are assigned to each coach. So that's about how it breaks down. So you work very closely with your coach in direct messaging and face-to-face chats if you want them. And the coach is there to guide you, to push you to do great work, they are not there to be your cheerleader, and they're very, very, very vocal about that. So if you're trying to just get a pep chat, it's probably not the best idea. The coaches are going to push you to do more, which is why you are in the program. First of all, you're not there just to get rah-rah-rahs. They never give you straight answers. It's always kind of roundabout, and everything ends with a question. So that can be very frustrating at times when you just want to get a question answered or you just want to come to a conclusion, but that's just not how the coaching process works. And I felt like for me, that was really good because it forced me to think for myself. It forced me to slow down and to think about things and to figure out creative solutions to my own questions. But they just ask very, very good questions. They're excellent about that. And you'll hear a lot of Seth Godin lingo. So if you read a lot of Seth Godin stuff, the lingo comes out through the coaches. The lingo that comes out in the community is just everywhere. You'll start using it too. All right, the projects aspect. So people wonder, what type of projects are you doing? I cannot be specific about those, but you ship. That's another Seth Godin lingoism. You ship 3 projects per week, and these projects are a mix of solo and group projects. So you're broken down into groups within your team cohort. You'll meet with your learning group of about 4 to 5 students, and this is like your mini team each week. And these people are in your time zone, so it makes it convenient. So you don't have people around the world trying to meet and 12 or 13 hour time differences to navigate. Then you are expected to show up at these learning groups, and they happen on Tuesday nights, Thursday nights, and all day Sunday, which is a very big time commitment. And if you are not prepared to make that time commitment, don't come into altMBA. I was in a part of a couple groups where people just didn't show and they didn't tell you where they were. Or one person said, oh yeah, I got married over the weekend, so I can't be there, just out of the blue. So yeah, some strange things can happen, but being part of those learning groups is one of the most transformative experiences. And as an introvert, it was tough for me to come out of my shell and do video chats with complete strangers. But that was really important to the projects themselves and also to the community, and coming out of my shell and learning how to collaborate with other people. Each project has 3 parts, and you have the actual project, and most of these are blog post based or content based. So don't be alarmed if you aren't a writer. It's okay. You don't have to be an excellent writer to join the program or to succeed in the program. But if you do write, it makes it a lot easier because they are content text based for the most part. There are a couple that are not, but for the most part they are. Then the second part would be posting comments on other students' projects. And this is where we dive into the feedback aspect. And then you reflect upon each project. So after you get all that feedback from other students, after you've given feedback to other students, you reflect on your project. And it's almost like a journal entry where you say, this is what I learned. This is what I'm going to do differently. You can even change parts of your project if you want based on the feedback that you received. So those are the projects. And you have 3 of those due every week. And then you have, for each project, you also have comments due. And you have reflection, they call them reflection scripts due for each project. So it is something due every day, and it can be very challenging just to keep up. So time management is something you do learn through the program. Make sure you're keeping up with each of your projects, your comments, your reflection scripts. Now let's talk about the scheduling aspect of altMBA. I won't lie, it is really tough to keep up the pace, and I am a go-getter. I can get things done. I have 3 kids at home from age 13 to age 6 months. So yes, it is challenging to get things done and keep up that pace. But what I would say is never miss a learning group. So you should never ever miss those unless it's a life or death emergency. So booking those time slots into the calendar is really, really important. Sometimes you feel like you don't want to show up or you've got other things that you need to do. Just show up. It's just how it goes. And then you should never miss a project or commenting or reflecting on your projects, because a lot of people will skip over these and they just I felt like they were very glib about it, saying, oh yeah, I missed the deadline, that's okay. I finally did it a few days later. To me, that's not the spirit of altMBA. altMBA is you keep your obligation, you show up on time, you do great work. Even if it's not perfect work, you're giving your best shot within the time allotted for each project. So I felt like that was something I took away from it that I felt other people didn't prioritize as much during the program. And if you have a very demanding job, or you started something new at work, or you just aren't sure you're going to be able to book out enough of the learning group sessions or time to actually do the work, you shouldn't join the program because you're going to need to allocate at least 20 to 30 hours a week to do altMBA well. And for me, often it was like closer to 40 hours a week. So yeah, it was strenuous. It was tough. Make sure you have the bandwidth in your schedule before trying to take it on. In discipline and time management will get you through. I promise. It's worth it though. Definitely. All right. So I'm going to talk about a few of the themes that I took away from the program. First would be making decisions. This was something I thought I was good at until I joined altMBA, and I thought, wow, I really don't know how to make decisions. I've been going off my gut all this time, thinking I was making a rational decision. And there's actually a good project that deals with this. So if you are having trouble making decisions or you're unsure how to go about that process, it was worth it to me to do altMBA for the making decisions portion. It was that good and that transformative. Leadership, another theme. All of us are leaders in some way, shape, or form, even if we don't have that in our job title. How we lead and how we put ourselves out there, how we help others, that is up to us. And I felt like leadership was definitely praised during the program. And I guess there were opportunities for leadership, but they pushed you to look for ways that you could lead. They didn't just say, here's the clear path, follow this. Giving back. Okay, I have trouble with this sometimes because I feel like my plate is so full that giving back to other people, especially strangers, can be challenging for me. So I have noticed that I have been much more generous with my time after altMBA than I was during the program. And I feel like that's part of what I learned in giving back, because in giving feedback to people and working in those learning groups, you learn how to come out of yourself and realize it's not all about you. It's not all about your projects. It's also about how you can contribute and help other people with their projects. Teamwork kind of ties into what I just mentioned. And I have always been a lone wolf. I like to do everything on my own. I like to take full responsibility and credit for what I do. And sometimes I feel like, oh, I could do it better by myself than I could with a group. And so this was challenging for me to overcome, but it was one of the big things I took away from the process is learning how to collaborate and really work with a team, because that's actually what's going to help me level up, get to the next level, and effect greater change on a bigger scale, because there's only one of me. And if I can work with others that have great ideas and great perspectives and passion, it's going to be powerful. All right. And then next would be doing the hard part first. Many of us struggle with this. We put off the hard tasks until later. And just diving into a project or diving into your next task, even if it feels hard, just do it, get it done, get it over with, and you'll be happy you did. Another thing would be outsourcing tasks. I don't like to outsource because I'm a little bit of a control freak. So I had to learn how to let other people help me around the house. Had to give up some of my chores for the time being and ask for help from other people. It was very challenging, but worth it because it has helped me realize that it is okay to ask for help. Another theme would be showing up. And I kind of touched on this earlier, people not showing up to learning groups. But for me, it was really important that I show up and I never be late to a meeting. Even if I had technological difficulties, and I did, of course, my computer headphone jack went all crazy. So I wasn't able to use my normal computer. So yeah, things are going to happen. Just show up. Leveling up was something else. I thought I knew how to level up until I joined altMBA and realized there was so much more that I could do. And I was pushed and prodded by my fellow students and others in my group to do better, greater work, and it helped me to level up. Another thing that a lot of people took away is empathy. from the program. And it's being able to empathize with others. There was another good project that touched on this, and being able to, even if you can't sympathize, so sympathy is a little bit different than empathy. So even if you can't sympathize with somebody because you haven't been through their exact same circumstances, you can empathize. So putting yourself into somebody else's shoes, trying to think of things outside of your own perspective and get into their heads, that's a really important part of marketing, which is my day job. So that was fun for me. It was also challenging. Pushing through fatigue, you're going to get tired in altMBA, really, really tired. You're going to feel like your brain is going to explode. You may have a few meltdowns. That is all perfectly normal. But just realize it's only 4 weeks, and if you can just get through those 4 weeks, you'll be fine. You'll be glad you did. So just being able to develop that grit and that stick-to-itiveness, really important and valuable in the workplace, because when you do sprints in your day job or in your work or in your growing your business, you learn how to pace yourself, but then after that sprint is done, you're able to pull back. So that's actually after altMBA, I tried to pull back a little bit. I found myself trying to jump in too much and keep that momentum going after altMBA, but really it's about sprinting, braking, sprinting, braking. Another topic we talked about was leveraging constraints. And a beautiful constraint, that was one book I did not show you because it's by my bedside, but that's an excellent book. So when you have barriers in your way, how can you actually leverage those barriers to your advantage? And I had always viewed barriers as right there in front of me, oh, stink, I have a barrier, oh no, I can't do anything about that barrier. Instead, looking at it from different angles and trying to figure out how you can leverage it. And there are so many other ones I could talk about, but I'm going to just talk about one more, which is dancing with fear. All of us are afraid. All of us have worries and things that keep us up at night. I know I do. You wake up and you just start going through a million different things in your head. What you're afraid of. Is this going to work? Are you going to be successful? All of those thoughts. So learning that you don't have to shut down fear. It's learning to dance with it, that it's okay, that you can kind of tango with it. I don't have any dance moves, but being able to be okay with fear, being able to push through things when you are afraid. Very important. It is a dance, and I feel like dancing with fear is something that I'm getting better at. Got a long way to go, but I'm getting better at. Okay, so those are some of the takeaways. Now let's talk about some of the struggles. A lot of us struggled through altMBA at some level or another. For me, one of the things was relationships. I just did not have as much time to spend with my family as I should have been spending with my family. And I find it challenging as it is because I'm a little bit of a workaholic, or my family would say I'm a lot of a workaholic. So making time outside of altMBA to unplug and spend time with them was challenging, and I didn't do the best at it. I could have done a whole lot better, and I've still got a long way to go when it comes to the whole work-life, family balance thing. Fatigue, getting enough sleep was challenging too, but I feel like prioritizing that, and even if I couldn't do, some people were pulling these all-nighters, and there was no way I was going to pull all-nighters for a project. I still got to bed on time. I think there are only a few nights where I stayed up an hour or two past my bedtime. So if you prioritize your sleep, you'll do better work and you'll get it done faster. And then trying to keep the momentum going after the program, not a good strategy. So just try to back off a little bit for at least a week or two before you jump into everything, because once you get through a program like this, the temptation is to fill up every single time slot in your day and fill up all those slots that you used to have dedicated to altMBA with other things. So don't do that. I made that mistake and kind of overwhelmed myself. All right, let's talk about the community aspect. I feel like the community was almost more important than the projects themselves. Why? Because you get to meet other people. And there's nothing like building relationships with other people around the world in other sectors, people you would never meet elsewhere, but that are passionate about doing great things, passionate about the same themes of altMBA, and you start discovering ways that you can help each other after the process and during the process. So that has been powerful, and I'm now a part of the altMBA alumni group. It is amazing. So even if you joined altMBA just for the community, you have this amazing network of hundreds, and it's going to be more like thousands once a few more classes come through, of of sharp, awesome people. So highly recommend getting into altMBA just for the community. All right, almost done. I know we are about out of time, but with the goals, you will set goals during the program. It's one of the very biggest parts of the program, and you see goals popping up everywhere. I went into the program with one set of goals, and that was to build an online product and grow my freelance business into a solopreneur operation. I wanted to be the typical Tim Ferriss, doing my 4-hour work week with my online product just generating me money while I was sleeping. I came out of the program with another list of goals, and this was to become an entrepreneur at a larger organization or nonprofit to affect change on a greater scale. And I started looking at dream jobs and the qualifications for those dream jobs, and I realized that I need to go back to school. So that is now on my docket, is I am going back to school to get my business administration degree and then an MBA, because the jobs that I want to get all require that I have those qualifications. And I love school anyway, so it's not a problem. So long story short, I went from entrepreneur to intrapreneur at a big organization. Very, very different. All right, so what do you do with what you learn after altMBA? You actually do have some takeaways, and you can create a portfolio of work from altMBA, which is really, really cool, because I linked to that in my LinkedIn profile. I'm a social media marketer by day. And so my LinkedIn profile is something I like to keep up to date, and altMBA makes it look really good. So I have altMBA all over my LinkedIn profile. So that's one way you can take what you've learned and show people what you took away from the program. And then you can also put it on your other relevant social profiles. And it's kind of like it's a nice rubber stamp, because people who know Seth Godin or people in the community, they do value people who have gone through the altMBA. So it's kind of like another stamp of approval. It's not quite like Harvard or MIT or Stanford, but altMBA is still very, very good. And people that are looking to hire actually are starting to look for people who have gone through the altMBA program. So if you're looking to make a career change, capitalize on the altMBA rubber stamp. And then it's engaging in the altMBA community. And you can also go back through your projects and figure out ones that you may want to redo or revisit or look at again. And that's something that's on my to-do list, but to be honest, it's kind of fallen to the bottom because I have so many other things I'm working on at the moment. But that's one way that you can get more out of the program. All right, so was it worth it? That's the big question. Yes, it was more than worth it. It was really hard, but it was worth it. And I would recommend it to you if you have enough bandwidth, if you can afford the tuition to go through the program, and if you have support to help you through the program, both outside, like with your family or friends, and then inside to make sure you have a very strong community and you connect with other altMBA students. So yes, I think it was worth it. And then what now? So now that you've heard about the program, what do you want to do with it? If you're interested, I'd recommend you check out the altMBA website and read through every single thing that is on that page. There are a lot of FAQs, questions, interviews. You can join some webinars with Wes and Seth Godin as they talk about the program. I recommend you learn everything you can before you apply, because then you'll know whether it's a good fit for you and whether right now is the right time for you to apply.
So what did you think of hearing me from 2016 talking about altMBA and my experience? Well, hopefully it was interesting. Even back then, I cared about my LinkedIn profile, which is something I'm still pretty passionate about. But I would love to hear if you have been through a program that has transformed your life. Is there something like an altMBA that you went through and you're like, Mindi, this was the most impactful experience I've ever had? I love hearing about those experiences, because when we share our ideas and when we go through experiences like that and then we tell somebody else about it, we are spreading the word and we are actually making our communities and our spaces a better place for others. So share with me, like, if there's been an experience that was incredibly transformative for you, I would love to know. So shoot me a message or DM me on Instagram at Mango Effect Podcast and tell me all about it, because I want to know. And I'm a little bit of a course junkie, program junkie. So if there's a good program out there, I want to know about it and slot it into my calendar to take at some point in the near future. And for those of you who like what you hear, I would love it if you would subscribe to the Mango Effect podcast wherever you listen to podcasts so you don't miss an episode. And I'd also be thrilled if you decided to leave a 5-star review for the show if you love it. We are a new show, so any reviews and subscribes we get will definitely help us as we grow. I'm looking forward to talking with you in the next episode. I will talk to you then. Bye for now.